Okay, so I presume this is now live streaming on YouTube. Okay, so I presume this is now live streaming on YouTube, which is kind of interesting doing this on Okay, so I Zoom. Presume this is now live streaming on YouTube. Wow, triple delay. Interesting doing this on Okay, so I presume this is now live streaming. Okay, so does this now mean that I can do all the things that I can normally do? For instance, am I able to Right, let's see what happens now if I share the screen as well. Ta-da! Let's see how this now shows up. Okay, so we are talking about Practical Magic 2, Constant Consistent Magic. Seems I'm unable. Oh. Okay, so it's constant, consistent magic is what this is all about. Interesting, a slight delay. So we are talking about building with fun, joy, and cosmic curiosity. We want to be like this bear and creating things in this way, putting the stuff together and finding that magic enters our reality. Now, this isn't the actual class that I actually ran very recently because I'm currently ad-libbing this. I don't have my notes with me because this is just a test for the live. And running real slow. Oof, that's horrible. Okay, so one of the things that actually gets in the way of us being able to create the most amount of magic or manifestation or whatever you want to call it, that improving the probabilities of things happening in your world that you would want more of. Let's put it as simply as that. It's our attitude. And unfortunately, often when we're dealing with really serious problems, we get into this deadly serious mode where we're looking at things that are absolutely the most horrible thing. And what that does, let's have a look. What's this option here? Can I draw on this? So we have this here. Now, if I draw on that, yeah. So we start with deadly serious, locks us into the box of what we already, which is no change. It's exactly as it stands right now. So the idea is we want to go from there to being grown up, proper, playful, fun, cheeky, mischievous to downright rude. Now, what downright rude actually means is Downright rude means that we don't know respect the issue or the problem. We don't give it more energy than it, we don't give it more power over us. By being downright rude and disrespectful towards it, choosing to not take it so seriously, thereby unlocking ourselves from being locked in that the problem issue, problem state, and the limited amount of, shall we say, solutions to the problem. Now all of a sudden, there's an infinite amount of solutions. Now we're just going to move on to the next slide here. I just want to play this to see if this works and see what happens to the screen as well. Talking about fear of the unknown being the biggest thing that limits the possibilities. And it's the, yeah. And the unknown is the fog, the deep waters, the parts that we don't know about. So we have fear of, when we're trying to achieve something, we think fear of failure is the thing that's stopping us. It's not, because if it was, then you wouldn't be running, well, you wouldn't be in this failure state. By not doing the thing, you're actually already failing. You already failed. So it can't be fear of failure, because if you really feared failure, you'd be running at high velocity, leaving a flame trail behind you straight towards success. But you're not. So what it is actually fear of failure is a fear of success. And fear of success is that thought of, if I actually achieve the thing I'm aiming for, then everything's going to change. My entire life is going to be different. I don't know what that looks like. So it's fear of change. So fear of failure is not real. It's actually fear of success. Fear of success isn't really real. It's fear of change. Because if I do this, then everything that I know will be different. And I'm worried. I'm scared about that because at least right now, it's better the devil you know. I know what it is I'm getting. I know what it is that's getting in my way. I know what it is that's preventing me from doing things. And this is the world I've currently got at the moment. I can live with this, even though it's uncomfortable, even though it's painful, even though I don't want it. At least I know what it is. So ultimately, the fear of change goes right the way down to fear of the unknown. That's where most of us are. And that's what stops us from being able to create massive transformational, life shifting change within our own world, within our. So, in this next exercise, which we're not actually going to do on this live stream because I'm just testing out the live stream, but just to give you a sense of what is happening here, what was happening on the actual event that I ran for this. What we want to do is in the next exercise, we're going to learn how to joyfully step into the unknown. And how do we go about joyfully stepping into the unknown? Simple. We reduce or even possibly remove that fear of the unknown. Fear of the unknown is not that there are things that are unknown. There are things that you don't know about. It's more about being able to accept that there are things unknown and accept that there are things that you can't control, but still move towards it nonetheless. And it's really fear, the reaction that we get from the fear. So what we do first of all is tap into a feeling of being unsure of your future. If I think about it right now, there's wherever you feel that uncertainty, what's going to happen in the future. I don't know what's going to happen with this particular health issue. I don't know what's going to happen with this business that I'm trying to create. Will it succeed? Will it not? I don't know what's going to happen with trying to pay off my house. Whatever it is, something in the future where you feel unsure. You don't have certainty about it, and that certainty is uncomfortable. Notice where you feel the discomfort. Now, typically with these ones, it's going to be a mixture of internal and external reaction. Right now, if anyone's watching the live stream, which I'd be really surprised if there was anyone watching this on the live stream, if anyone's watching this on the live stream, you may not necessarily know what those things are. This part I'm teaching right now comes from Practical Magic 5. For other students have been on this now for the past 4 years, so they fully understand what I'm talking about here. But just for illustration's sake, is notice where you feel the thing instead of trying to think about what it is. Don't think, just feel, like Bruce Lee used to say. and target the center of that feeling, and then take your awareness high up above it. So imagine if that fear of the unknown, I'm feeling it somewhere in my solar plexus, somewhere deep in my chest. I'll put my attention there, but I'm not going to go in there first of all. I'm going to then take my awareness and zoom out above. So it's almost like I'm pulling out to bird's eye view, Google Maps view, out as far as I need to go until it feels more comfortable. And this is really a game of awareness. Then once you're at the right height that feels right, then switch on your rocket pack and go at high velocity straight down towards the center of where you felt that response, that reaction. And if you run into any obstacles along the way, turn into liquid and flow around the obstacle until you get right to the bottom and out the bottom of that obstacle. At which point, you're then going to carry on through that center out to the other side and then check the space you've ended up in. And typically, for these kind of things, that space will also have a containment. It could be surrounded by a sense of limit. Then take your awareness right the way out to the edge of that limit and out beyond the edge of that limit. And keep going. If you run into any other additional layers, keep going through the until you get to a space where it feels like that space goes on forever. And then empty any backup copies. Again, I won't get into details of that one because if you're watching this for the first time, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about on that one. But essentially, backup copies are where there's pockets of information where your energy is being held in there to recreate this whole pattern all over again. This is why you've been working at whatever level, whether it's at a psychological level, whether emotional level, whether you've got into some more woo-woo stuff and you're dealing with energies and spiritual practices, whatever it is you've been doing, it's because you haven't tackled the backup copies that the problem that you thought you solved slowly starts coming back again, reasserts itself. It's because of those backup copies. And that's not because those backup copies are there to cause you harm or to make things difficult for you. They are there simply because these patterns that are preventing you from moving forward were protective. So the backup copy has been put in place in order to recreate the protective shield or field that you've got around you in case anything should ever happen to it. Except that protective field is out of date. So that's why we're changing it now. So ultimately, when you've done all this and keep going back to keep checking on that same point that you were thinking about in the future, and if you still feel unsure, notice again, where else do you feel that? Don't think about what it is making you unsure. Just notice where your attention is drawing you. If it says it's here in my throat, that's where it is. If it says it's here on my tip of my shoulder, that's where exactly where it is. Trust that your awareness knows what's going on and that it's answering the question that you have asked. And then when you've done that and you get to the point where thinking about this unsure future, you basically get nothing. Everything seems kind of fairly neutral and blank. Then you'll have stepped into the unknown. Just like this little bear here. You're happily out there in the fog, exploring and being curious and opening yourself up to receiving new information and new possibilities. Now, another great big obstacle to you being able to create what you want to manifest the ideal life, how cliche does that sound? But in order for you to actually improve the chances of you getting what you want, is this thing that's about a need for results. Okay? Magic can be limited by your own expectations. I'm working on this particular injury I've got and I expect it to get better immediately. Or I need more money in my bank account. So I've put some energy out there, put magic out there. I expect when I check my bank account again now, it's going to suddenly show new figures in there. This expectation locks us still into the same box that we were in. You know, the need for the results can prevent you from letting go. Now, those of you who've heard me talk about this before, with putting these commands or requests out to the universe, you've got to throw the ball. You've got to let the happy, universal, playful puppy go running off and fetch it and bring it back to you in a different form. But if you don't let go of it, it's still in your hands. You are still locked into the existing paradigm with it. And our own expectations can prevent us from noticing an actual result. Sometimes an actual result is the thing worse. But because our expectation is that the thing should get better and go away, whatever the problem is you're working with, sometimes we miss out the fact that things could have been a lot worse. Maybe you doing that thing actually maintained it and kept it stable. Whereas if you hadn't done it, it would have snowballed downhill. You don't know. But your expectation would prevent you from noticing that actually you might have got a result after all. So in this next exercise, we're going to attention to free yourself from expectations. And by setting intention, this is part of practical magic. So again, if you're not familiar with what this is, it's because you haven't been with me on this training course up until this point. It's the first time you're ever seeing this. So just run with it for now. Just whatever you're understanding here, just go with that. That's an additional intention to free all the other members of the group that you're working together with. And of course, this was a group program, so that's why it mentioned zero. Drop into the field of the heart. Go to your practical magic menu and use any and all of the items that get your attention. And then keep going until you get that done window. And have no expectation of the results so that you can let go of that need to have that result. And here's the menu. Now, in the actual class, I left this up for a while for people to actually check out the menu and work through it and pick out whatever it is that shows up. These are all the different tools that I taught over the past 4 years. So don't worry if you don't understand what half of these things mean. In fact, I'd be extremely surprised if you did understand what half of these things mean. Anyway, and then from there, at the end of that exercise, we then had the idea about appreciating the unexpected, which is this bear getting a present. He didn't know what it was going to be. He opens up the box and he's just happy to get something. Okay. And that's it for now for this live stream test. And then back to me again. And then we'll see how this recording turns out for future iterations where I will actually be teaching more of these concepts and more of these ideas. And then people can be free to come up and ask any questions that they have and pose ideas and get into and all magic is true, all ghosts are real. It doesn't really matter where you sit on that scale because ultimately the result you're looking for is still the same. You're looking to change your experience of the world, whether that's just purely through your perception or whether that's actually really manifesting material change in the world around you. Ultimately, it's what you end up experiencing that counts in your world, in your mind, in your feelings, in your energy. So whether you're at the pure rumor, a theory, a conspiracy, or whatever, or a nice to have fairy tale, all the way across to not only do fairy tales exist, but I'm actually a witch. Whatever, it doesn't matter. The ultimate thing is you're still looking to try and change, and you're trying to change your world and change the world for the better for the people around you. That's all. Yeah, for either end of the scale. Now I've come from more the logical end of the scale and ended up over at the woo-woo scale. Some people start from the crazy magic woo-woo scale and then work their way back to logic. Either way, it's a whole scale where things happen all along that scale. It's not just everything works at this end or everything works at that end. It's a combination of both. Just in the same way that there's the mind and there's the heart, the field of the mind and the field of the heart. They don't manage to create things in the world independently. They have to work together. And that's what practical getting such a place that you think you can change your response to the world around you. And ultimately, that's what gives you power. That is what personal power is all about. Having choice on how you respond, how you act, and thereby how you present yourself in the world, and therefore how the universe find. It is just that I'm going to end this live stream because it was just a test, as I said, and we'll see how future ones go.